I'd like to call to order the Committee of the Whole for today. Roll call, please.
Mayor Paul Kumar,
Here.
Ms. Lauren Welch,
Present.
Ms. Anastasia Elder,
Here.
Mayor Marie Gallo,
Oh.
Mr. Stephen Love,
Yes.
Reverend Charles Lucas, Ms. Deidre McPherson,
Here.
Ms. Emily Pachetti, Mr. Jeffrey Sleesman,
Here.
Mayor David Weiss.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Next item, approval of the July 1st, 2025 minutes. Are there any comments on that? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Motion Welch.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those pass. Item 3, we have a ridership analysis and report. We have Joel Freelick, Director of Service Management, along with Ruben Morgan, Manager of Operations Analysis.
All right. Good morning, Chair Kumar, members of the board. My name is Ruben Morgan. I'm the Manager of Operations Analysis and Service Management here at the RTA, and I'll be presenting on ridership trends in 2024. So really quickly, we'll go over what ridership calculation is, just so we are all on the same page on that. We'll talk about trends since 2019, differences between different modes, and then finally some service modification case studies. So that everyone is aware, we primarily calculate ridership using automatic passenger counters. These are devices on board vehicles and at red line stations that count the number of passengers who enter and exit the system. In places where we do not have automatic passenger counters, we supplement our ridership data with the fare collection system, whether it be the fare box, the Easy Fare mobile ticketing validators, or the fare gates. In total, we're able to capture the ridership across all of our different modes. And then for paratransit, we do it a little differently with the Trapeze scheduling system, which which schedules the service and then ultimately counts the number of people on board the vehicles. Since 2019, ridership hit its annual low in 2021 at just under half the ridership that we saw pre-COVID. And then since then has gradually been increasing again in 2024, where we saw ridership reach 78% of pre-COVID levels. And then so far in 2025, projecting from what we've seen so far this year, ridership has been very comparable to 2024. If we look at ridership by the different day types, ridership on the weekday has been a little slower in its comparison to 2019, where in 2024 it was at 74%. And the weekend has been stronger at 93%. So much more weekend ridership relative to 2019 compared to the weekday. If we split this further by mode, we see that rail has been lagging the furthest behind. So on the weekday, we're at just over half of the ridership we saw in 2019 on our rail system. On the health line, it's a little better at 76%, and then bus at 80%. As we saw before, the weekend is the stronger of the two. So weekend on all modes has been stronger than the weekday. And notably on the bus, if we exclude the health line, we actually saw higher ridership in 24 on the weekend than we did in 2019. Paratransit has been the strongest in comparison to 2019 with 34% higher ridership in 24 than what we saw pre-COVID and 53% higher on the weekend compared to the pre-COVID levels. Notably in paratransit, higher ridership means we need to provide more service. That's a higher supply. And so we'll hear a presentation later talking about this further, but the increase in ridership that we've been seeing is a direct correlation towards increase in service that we need to provide for paratransit. The RTA is primarily a bus-centric service. So over 80% of all of our ridership in 2024 has come from one of our bus routes, including the health line. Rail is the next highest group at 16%, and then paratransit's the smallest overall at 3%. So before I go a little further, I did want to talk a little bit about what we did a few years ago in our system redesign. So what we called Next Gen, or system redesign, was implemented in the summer of 2021, and this was a community-involved process where we asked, if we were to redesign our bus routes, what would you guys like to see? How would you guys like to see the bus routes serving you? What we heard from the community was that what the service coverage that we were providing was largely something that they still liked and they wanted us to maintain. But we were providing a lot of peak service, and they wanted us to focus more on the off-peak and the midday, and then also on the weekends, improve the frequency, not just on the peak periods. Additionally, they wanted us to not just focus on downtown, but also look at those non-downtown routes. And then when we're able to, they want us to improve the frequency. Ultimately, this is saying that they want us to serve the 7-day economy. This has been reflective in what we saw in 2024 ridership numbers. So historically, the two highest ridership routes are the Red Line and the Health Line, and that has been true as well in 2024. But if you look at the 2 of the 3 highest ridership routes on the bus, excluding the Health Line, you'll see that neither of those serve downtown. And so the 10 and the 41, which are 2 of the 3 highest ridership routes on the bus, don't even go downtown. And so this is already reinforcing what we heard from the community as we developed our system redesign in 21. To take it a little further, if we look at the modes and then we isolate the park and ride, which is the most downtown-centric route that we provide, we see that the park and ride is only serving about 1/3 of the ridership that we were seeing in 2019. When you then take it a little further, our rail system is also very downtown-centric. We have the light rail, the blue and the green lines, which go straight downtown in a fairly commuter-like service. And then we have the red line, which serves the east and the west side and funnels people downtown as well. That is at about half of the weekday ridership that we were seeing in 2019. Then the Health Line, which serves more than just downtown, but also the University Circle area, now has a higher ridership retention compared to 2019 at 76%. And then the bus, which serves all across Cuyahoga County, is at the highest at 80% of what we were seeing pre-COVID. Now, we've been hearing a lot from different companies that there's a return to work. There's this, people are having full return to the office. And so we are checking this on a regular basis. We're seeing from the Downtown Cleveland Incorporated, they have a return to office rate that they publish on a monthly basis. In 2024, this was 63% on average. Internally, we're also using our own 251 ridership route in order to see if we start to see this increase in ridership due to people coming in downtown with hybrid and remote sort of going away and going back to full in-office work. So every four times a year, we make service modifications to our routes or to our service. At times, we also improve the service. And so one of the questions we had was, well, we actually made some improvements last year at the end of the year. How has ridership shifted based off the service improvements that we made? So we have 3 case studies that we'll go through rather quickly and then talk about how service modifications have improved. So that you guys are aware, in August of 24, we had weekday frequency improvements on 4 routes. And then in December of 24, we had weekend frequency improvements. And those will be the case studies that we'll mostly focus on. So Route 50 runs fairly parallel with Route 48. And they both start up in the University Circle area on the north. And then they go down south through the neighborhoods and then distribute differently at the end of the routes. So Route 40 and 48 and 50, before August 2024, the 48 ran every 30 minutes on the 15 and the 45-minute mark from the University Circle area heading south. The Route 50 would depart only every hour and on the hour. After the August 2024 service change, we ended up making the 50 a 30-minute frequency so that it would depart with the 48 on alternating 15-minute frequencies. So in total, we would have a combined 15-minute frequency along this corridor. Thus, people have more options as they're leaving the University Circle area and heading down to the neighborhoods. What we saw was that after we made this frequency improvement, the Route 50 had a 72% increase in ridership. And even though the 48 could be considered a competitive service, it was actually complemented by the improvement on the 50 and also saw an increase in ridership higher than what we were getting on the bus overall. So this frequency improvement and these pairings actually helped both routes have higher ridership. Now, there were 3 other routes that saw frequency improvements in August of 2024. That's the 16, the 71, and the 86. All 3 of these routes went from a 60-minute frequency to a 30-minute frequency. And the 16 and the 86 had the whole route improved on the frequencies on the daytime. And we saw over 50% increase in ridership for those two routes after we made the service adjustments. The 71 already had a peak period frequency of 30 minutes. And so it was really just the midday that we were improving the frequency to match what we had on the peaks. And then it only improved between downtown and Southland. So it wasn't the full route that had the improvement, but just that one segment improvement we saw, it still had a 26% increase in ridership from that. In December of 2024, our weekends, and we made an improvement to 4 routes, the 3, the 10, the 22, and the 28, where we took them from a 30-minute frequency to a 15-minute. And what we saw on each of those was, again, higher improvement on the ridership relative to what we saw in the bus overall. So in all of these, what we are also seeing is that the average daily ridership change, so the number of people that we're seeing on a daily basis, has been fairly comparable on the weekend and on the weekday as we make these service improvements. Any questions?
Hello. Okay. Thank you for this presentation. It's great. I've been looking forward to this. So based on these last few slides in particular, where we have made efforts to increase the frequency of the bus, is it fair to say that we have seen a direct correlation between increased frequency and increase in ridership? Is that the conclusion?
Yes. So as we have improved the frequency on the services, we do see an increase in ridership. It's not always a one-to-one in the sense that you double the frequency, you double the ridership, but we're seeing a direct response from people as we're improving the service and higher frequencies. We're getting more people riding the system, which is what we want to see.
Understood. And forgive me if I missed this, but those 4 routes, I think you said 4 routes, that we focused on in this study, what was the purpose behind focusing on those particular routes as opposed to some other one?
So in August, the 50, the 16, the 71, and the 86 were the only routes that had a frequency change. So these are all the routes that we made adjustment to. In August, we mostly focused on the weekday. In December, we had also weekday improvements on 2 routes, but because this is a short presentation, I only wanted to focus on the weekend for December.
Got it. And then maybe a more nuanced question. Although we focused on those 4 because they had a frequency change, and I guess my question is, so why were those 4 made to have that change?
Yeah.
Thank you. For those listening online, this is Joel Freilich, Director of Service Management. I oversee the scheduling and service planning section as opposed to the research. So it was largely our service planning decision to decide on these routes. So when we were seeking to improve weekend frequency, in this case, what we were looking for is routes on the RTA's priority corridors that already had 15-minute service on weekday daytime, but on weekend daytime, they had 30-minute service. So from the community input that we got in 2019, they said, let's see if we can get to frequent on weekends as well. So this is kind of our first venture into this.
Okay.
Because prior to that, the entire RTA system, 15-minute frequency on weekends used to be seen only on Shaker Square to downtown on the rail, Windermere to airport on the rail, and Windermere to downtown on the health line. And nowhere else was there a weekend frequency of 15 minutes. So we searched through, we wanted priority corridors, and we felt these were pretty ripe, and we were hoping for, let's try these. These are our leading contenders. We're also on a limited budget. We had to stay within budget, so we couldn't just go whole hog and do a whole lot of things.
Right,
So,
right. No, that's helpful. Thank you so much. And then my last follow-up on this point is this something that we're going to expand and look at, to see if this works on other lines? or what are the plans post-study?
So we'll be coming back to you in November as part of the operating budget process where we give you our service management plan for the coming year. So we'll be talking about there, and we'll see how that goes. It's all, we have to watch the budget. So
Understood. And then I just have a separate question, if I might. When you were speaking about the next gen study, and the one thing that I found to be interesting is that when we asked the people, what they wanted to see, they had made comments about, not focusing on downtown and focusing in their neighborhoods. And in fact, I think a few slides later, you then showed that we were not, in fact, focusing in the downtown areas, and we were looking at other routes. And so I think that what I heard there is that there was a disconnect between public perception of what we were focusing on and then actually what we were focusing on.
So let me respond to that. First of all, it's very important to say that RTA still has more buses running during rush hours than at any other time. Also, that RTA has a tremendous amount of service that goes downtown, even now. What the community was telling us was, we understand why there's going to be a concentration in the downtown and in the rush hour, but could you make that concentration a little bit smaller?
Yeah.
A little bit smaller, because what they're saying right now, we're feeling more inconvenience when we go somewhere other than downtown, and we feel more inconvenience when we travel at some hour other than rush hour. So the RTA is, we still know downtown is probably one of the most important places on the network, so it's still the most important, but maybe the gap, okay, is different. And we're finding this in the travel market altogether. You may even observe it in traffic patterns, okay? It used to be more like, oh, this street's really hard to get through in rush hour, but at noon, it's no problem. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's no problem. That's flattening out. People are traveling at all times. Job shifts start at all times and all days. And so while the rush hour might be a little more congested, it's not, night and day. It's not like the difference between night and day. So it's our job to go where the people are and go when the people are.
Yeah.
So we have a flatter profile. It used to be more peaked.
Got it. That's very helpful. And I asked that question just so, someone watching or someone who watches this back understands where the focus is and why we're looking at certain areas and why we're not. I just want to make for sure that, all the good work that we are doing in multiple areas, I want to make sure that is being communicated out to the public and that there's a joint or a consistency in the messaging, that we don't think that we're just doing great things in all these other areas, but that the people actually know that we're doing it because we're communicating it out. So I say all that to say this is great work, and I look forward to the next step.
Is there any data used to determine which routes are going to get frequency increases? And is it like population densities or other propensities to travel where people are already commuting, though?
So population density and economic activity are kind of predictors of ridership. They're predictors of ridership. They're very important predictors of ridership. In some cases, however, we actually know the ridership. So when you know the ridership on a route and you know that the ridership is very strong on the weekdays, you tend to gravitate toward that one to say, hey, I bet you, based on the characteristics, as you mentioned, of population and also the ridership, that one looks ripe for being our first ones to go to that weekend 15-minute frequency. So yes, so all those data are very important, but let's not forget, when you know the ridership, you want to use that with even more emphasis than the predictor of ridership.
Can you go back to the recovery percentages?
We have the,
Yeah.
You have the clickers?
Yeah. Is this the one that you're looking for?
Yeah. So we've made changes to some bus lines. Have we made any changes to BRT? to the Healthline?
So this is a comparison of where were we in 2014 as a whole year.
2019.
2024, sorry. Where were we in 2024 as a fraction of 2019? So the service improvements that were in the case studies, they were largely not yet in effect.
Okay.
They were largely not yet in effect. So none of the weekends were in effect, and and only a very small amounts of changes. So this is just to try to tell you that weekday rail was at 52% of pre-COVID, whereas weekday bus was at 80% of pre-COVID.
Okay.
Similarly, weekend rail was at 71% of pre-COVID, whereas weekend bus was 101% of COVID, and Healthline, not too far behind regular bus, on the weekend was at 94% of pre-COVID.
And were there any changes on the Healthline between 2019 and 2024?
Almost none of these lines here had any of these frequency improvements. So, as I say, we really didn't. The frequency improvements we talked about were largely not here.
I meant any changes
Right.
on. I wasn't just looking for
So
increases.
now I will say that there are yes. So pre-COVID on 2019. Some frequencies were higher than today, especially for trips going downtown in the rush hour. When there were loads, we had passenger loads that wouldn't have tolerated a 15-minute frequency. But since then, when things have flattened out and spread more through the day, we're finding that the 15-minute frequency is enough for capacity. And so now what we do is we focus not so much on capacity because we don't have overloads. We focus more on convenience for customers. And what we're finding is that what the community told us is that the priority is try to get the hourly service to half hourly and try to get the half hourly service to 15 minutes. Okay? Those were the priorities. With lots and lots of money, you would also make the 15-minute service more frequent. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy if money falls from the trees, but it's not coming in large numbers right now, and so we're exercising those priorities because that hourly service is really pretty painful. You can get there, but it's really difficult.
Was the 10 on one of those?
Yes.
Yeah,
So the 10, because the 10 was 15 minutes already on weekdays, we said, hey, the 10 going to University Circle and other, dense neighborhoods and a transit-oriented population and transit-oriented neighborhoods with sidewalks on both sides of the street and all the kinds of things that are transit-supportive, transit-oriented development. We thought the 10 is let's give the 10 a try at having 15-minute daytime service every day instead of just weekdays. So, and it turned out well for us. We got a ridership growth on weekends of 16%, which is, not insignificant. And sure.
Sorry. And I'll also just add that this improvement happened at the very end of December. So the ridership numbers that we were seeing overall for Route 10 being the highest bus, excluding the Healthline, was without any changes because this didn't happen until the very end of December.
Right. So that's one of the reasons for picking the 10. By the way, the 10 has an extension all the way to Lake County. Mm-hmm. We did not take that extension and change its frequency on weekends. We left that where it was on weekends, which was half hourly. But the dense portion from East 185th Street and Lakeshore at the City of Cleveland line, all the way down through all the Cleveland territory, down 105th, all the way down to the Turney Ella Loop near Broadway. That's the section, which is very urban, that we moved up. So it didn't result in a doubling of weekend expense, not at all, because first of all, the change was daytime only, not night. And the change was the City of Cleveland, essentially, portion, the urban, dense portion. So 16%, when that's considered, is a pretty good yield. We're pretty happy with it.
I'll double down on what I've said before. Given that I would guess the success there is because it goes to University Circle. And and that's an attraction. And University Circle, I understand being less downtown dependent, but University Circle is the second largest jobs hub in the entire region, and it's the only one that's grown in the last 10 years. The Healthline is also the least subsidized route, so when it comes to money falling off trees, at least it falls off less. I would suggest that increases to the frequency of the Healthline would be a good spend of money, especially given where it was in 2016, 2017, when it was massively higher in ridership and had even a better recovery rate. I think we could really use that better, frankly. But those decisions also have to balance other trade-offs, so I get it. The numbers are really good on that route, including the efficiency and effectiveness. So I would really suggest looking at that hard. That'd be my recommendation.
Thank you, sir.
One quick question. Do we have sources for information about return to office downtown? I mean, does GCP or others
Yes.
survey so we have a sense of
Yes.
what the trajectory of that is?
Yes, we do. It's published, and we read it. It's published by Downtown Cleveland Incorporated, formerly Downtown Cleveland Alliance, and it's that 63%.
You want me to talk about
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so the Downtown Cleveland Incorporated, they look at cell phone data and essentially look to see how much activity is happening in downtown from 24 and 2019. They do this on a monthly basis, so they track on a monthly basis how much has there been in 24 compared to 2019 or whatever month we're looking at. So we've been looking at that on a regular basis just to make sure that we're seeing as that changes, if we're able to adjust appropriately. And then additionally, we look at our own ridership just to see how that compares to pre-COVID, and those routes that are more downtown centric, we would expect to see increases on the ridership as we have more activity happening downtown as well. So those two are sort of the main sources that we're looking at to see how much return to work in the downtown environment is changing.
Thank you. Thanks.
Anyone else? Thank you so much for the presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
Next, we have an option to purchase up to 12 rail cars, and we've got Brian Moore and a gang behind him, and so I'll let Brian lead it off.
All right. Good morning, Mayor Kumar, committee members, and members of the board. My name is Sean Becker, Director of Procurement. I'm filling in for Maybury Harris, who is wrapping up a well-deserved vacation. I'll be presenting today with Brian Moore, the Railcar Project Manager, Carolyn Young from our grants, and Tony Garofoli, Senior Director of Internal Audit. So this is a request to approve the execution of the negotiated competitive contract option for the purchase and delivery of up to 12 option under contract number 2021-125 with Siemens Mobility, Inc. On April 18th, 2023, the authority awarded contract number 2021-125 to Siemens Mobility, Inc. for the manufacture and delivery of up to 24 high-floor light rail vehicles, spare parts, tooling, and training in an amount not to exceed $163,920,115, with an option to procure up to 36 additional rail cars, spare parts, tooling, and training to be delivered over a 7-year contract term. The contract included a provision for the one-time purchase of up to 6 rail cars within a 6-month period of notice to proceed at the original contract unit price of $5,166,336 with no escalation, so essentially the same as the base contract. The Board of Trustees on November 28th, 2023, by resolution number 2023-88, authorized the first option to purchase those 6 additional rail cars at a not to exceed price of $30,998,016. On November 19th, 2024, by resolution number 2024-88, authorized the second option to purchase 18 additional rail cars, spare parts, and special tooling at a not-to-exceed price of $112,800,000. To date, 4 additional change orders have been executed, totaling $671,718,000.21. That have been authorized by the General Manager, Chief Executive Officer, and here's the change order log, which reflects that. So in November of 2023, we're seeing exercising that first 6 rail cars. And then in December of 2023, we purchased some additional couplers and exercised some special provisions and revisions to the specifications at no cost. And then in March of 2024, we added some smoke detectors to the HVAC system. And then in August of 2024, we added some additional rail profiles. And then as late last year, we exercised an additional 18 rail cars. So the authority now seeks to exercise an option to purchase up to 12 of the remaining rail cars under this contract. The contract provided that the cost for optional rail cars will be priced at the original base price of $5,166,336, plus an inflationary price increase that would be calculated at the time of final assembly of each rail car based on the Producer Price Index, or PPI, for transportation equipment, and a National Labor Index that is published monthly by the United States Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics. As of June 2025, the base price of $5,166,336 has increased to $5,474,631.63 based on those market indices. And an application of a 10-year historical review of those indices will result in a projected price of $6 million per rail car at the time of final assembly. Funding has been identified to fund this option in an amount not to exceed $72 million for up to 12 of the remaining additional high-floor light rail vehicles. And at this time, I'll hand it over to the project manager, Brian Moore, to kind of give an overview of the project and this option.
Good morning, Chair Kumar, members of the board. My name is Brian Moore, and I am the manager of the Rail Car Replacement Program. I just want to kind of refresh everyone's memory of what the key features on the new vehicles are. This will be the first high-floor LRV built to the RT1 2020 design standards, and that's a safety feature that basically protects the operator and the occupants of the vehicle. Each vehicle will be equipped with ice-cutting pantographs. They'll be heated windshield, and the pantographs will also be heated. So that'll just help during the cold weather to keep the windshield clear and to keep the pantograph free of ice. There's a load leveling system that will adjust the floor height depending on the occupants in the vehicle. And there's a dedicated HVAC system for the operator. So the operator gets to control their climate when they're out there working all day. There's 52 passenger seats, 4 wheelchair areas, and 2 bicycle racks. And then also it will have a passenger information system, much like is on our existing, on our buses. This is the exterior of the vehicle. You can see the doors near the cab on both ends have longer doors, and those are the ones that will be used to board and alight low platforms. The doors in the center of the vehicle are fixed at the high platform level, and so that when we're on the heavy rail platforms or red line platforms, we'll be able to use those doors. And then inside the car, there's trap doors that will fill the stairwells on those, on the steps at the ends of the car. So just looking at a plan view of the layout, you can see in the center of the vehicle, there's bicycles. The bicycle racks are located there, as are the ADA mobility parking areas. So that coincides with those fixed high platform doors. And then closer to the cab on both ends, you'll see the stairwells. Looking inside the vehicle, that sign that you see on the ceiling there, you'll hear discussions about that later on, but that's a part of the passenger information system. So it's a variable message sign that we can display different messages on that. Then you can see where the bikes are, the mobility parking areas, and just a overall feel for the inside of the vehicle. So we've been busy over the last couple months. The train is well on its way to being fabricated, the first one, and then subsequent cars. The picture that you see on the left is a picture of the car shell, and what those are pans that go inside the frame, and then the flooring goes on top of that. And then you can see in the right-hand picture, we've got Ken Bisson from QA and then Casey Blaze from Rail Equipment. They're looking at one of the girders. It's a fabricated member for one of the vehicles. So that was on one of our trips to Sacramento. We've also done the painted car shell. So it's kind of exciting getting to this point because now all the drawings, all the paperwork, all the words we've read, now it's come to fruition and you can actually see the outside of the car. Color scheme is, I think it's awesome. In the center, this is a team that went out for the painted car shell right around, I think it was July 2nd. So we were able to get back just in time for the holiday. But we've got Don Harridam on the far left. He's a vehicle engineer. Mike Shipper, DGM of operations. We've got Dr. Caver there in the center. Casey Blaze, me, and then Ken Bisson. And in the far right picture, you see Don Harridam inside the vehicle with the floor installed, and he's just inspecting right there some of the wiring that's been installed. So it's a pretty exciting time. Right here, this is our vehicle. It's in the final design or final assembly bay, and you can see it's got both cars. So one car is closest to you, and then further into the picture there is the second car. So they're getting ready to be married at this point. So just an overview of the program. The rail car replacement, we're replacing heavy rail and light rail with one vehicle that'll service both high and low platforms. We're also buying spare parts and special tooling for the new vehicles, design and construction support services, and then we also have a significant amount of infrastructure modifications. Those are all part of the program. And with that, I'll turn it over to Carolyn so that she can talk about the money side.
Good morning, Mayor Kumar, officers of the board. My name is Carolyn Young. I'm the Director of Grants Management and Treasury, and today I'm here to present the financial portion of the presentation. On May 20th, 2025, the Board of Trustees approved the amended budget to reflect the option to extend up to 12 vehicles for $72 million, bringing the total rail car program to $450 million. As you see here, the various categories of expenditures for the project consist of vehicle acquisition at $380.7 million, design and inspection at $6.5 million, existing infrastructure upgrades at $33.5 million, and a combination or combined project administration and force account at $13 million, and contingency at $16.3 million, bringing the total budget for the rail car replacement program to $450 million. Through continuing support from our funders, we have been able to raise $420.5 million. At this time, we just want to basically thank our funders for supporting us for this huge endeavor. NOACA, ODOT, Federal Highway Association or Administration, and FTA for supporting us in this endeavor. Without them, this would not be possible. Right now, we have $344.4 million in awards. We have $76 million in commitments of letter of intent, leaving a remaining $29.5 million of uncommitted funds. Right now, we're expecting $15 million to be transferred in our general fund to rolling stock in 2026 and 2027. We'll see $10 million in 2026 to be transferred from general fund to rolling stock and another $5 million in 2027 to fill that void that we have in uncommitted funds. And then we'll continue to seek competitive grant opportunities of $14.5 million through other avenues that may exist for us with ODOT. We'll continue to analyze our financial status to see if there's any opportunity or if we have to exercise debt at any point if we're not able to fulfill the uncommitted balance.
Thank you, Carolyn. Good morning, Mayor Kumar, members of the Committee of the Whole, CEO, General Manager, Birdsong Terry. My name is Anthony Garofoli, Executive Director of Internal Audit. As a condition to receiving Federal Transit Administration grant funds for the purchase of any rolling stock, GCRTA must certify compliance with Buy America and the pre-award and post-delivery audit requirements as prescribed by 49 Code of Federal Regulations, Part 663. This requirement also applies to options. It says the manufacturer must demonstrate the cost of domestic components is greater than 70% of the value of the total car cost. And internal audit, we must verify the manufacturer's information. Final assembly of the vehicles must take place in the United States in accordance with 49 Code of Federal Regulations, Part 661.11. The rolling stock procured is the same product described in its solicitation specification, and the proposed manufacturer is a responsible manufacturer with the capability to produce a vehicle that meets the GCRTA specifications. A status. The pre-award audits for the initial and option vehicles. The initial pre-award audit for the base order of 24 cars was completed in May 2023. A second audit for the first option of 6 cars was completed in December of 2023. A third audit of the second option of 18 cars was completed in December of 2024. No exceptions were found. For all completed pre-award audits, no exceptions were noted. The necessary certificates as required by the FTA were issued to GCRTA management. Upcoming is the final pre-award audit will be completed for the third option of up to 12 cars based only upon approval by the board. And I'll turn it back over to Sean Becker.
Thanks, Tony. So the recommendation, staff requests that the Committee of the Whole recommend to the Board of Trustees the award of an option for the purchase and delivery of up to all 12 of the remaining additional high-floor light rail vehicles in an amount not to exceed $72 million. And we're still navigating through some considerations regarding schedule and the impact of tariffs, but you can expect to see a resolution come to the board at a future board meeting. And at this point, the team would be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Questions from any member? Raj, do you want to just comment on the financing component of that as we're moving forward with this? Obviously, that's an important component to make sure we've got the funding in hand.
Be happy to, Mayor Kumar. Sean, can you go back to that funding stack slide? Cannot give you a number. I think that's the best way. Yep, that's the one. So as Carolyn reported, we have between awarded and committed grants, as well as the commitment from the general fund to continue funding the roughly $10 million on an annual basis and $5 million for 2027. We have $420.5 million in those two categories, which represents 94% approximately of the total program budget. So I believe that we are in a pretty good place. We will continue to exercise what our options we have for competitive grants. We're looking at the ODOT for $14.4 million, and if history is a guide, I think we should be able to obtain those over the next year or so.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Next, we have Personnel Policies and Procedures Manual Update. Some revisions in the code section. Nadine?
Okay. Good morning, Mayor Kumar, Ms. Birdsong Terry, members of the board. My name is Nadine DeJesus, Benefits and Compensation Manager, along with John Solik, Associate Counsel 2. And we are here to present proposed revisions to Personnel Policy 400.04, payroll deductions. Just to give you some background, Human Resources and Legal continuously review the Personnel Policies and Procedures Manual for updates and sound business practice. The PPPM is subject to review and revision annually. All personnel policy revisions must be approved by the Board of Trustees. The Personnel Policies and Procedures Manual covers policies and procedures primarily related to personnel management, not intended to replace other operating policies and procedures, and all employees at the GCRTA are expected to abide by these policies and procedures. The policies are approved by the resolution of the board. The procedures are issued by the general manager, CEO, and implement the policies. Under Policy 400.04, payroll deductions, Human Resources, in consultation with legal, reviewed and revised Personnel Policy 400.04, payroll deductions to align with federal, state, and local law, as well as current GCRTA operations. The revisions explicitly outline mandatory and voluntary deductions permitted from employee paychecks. Mandatory payroll deductions are made for federal, state, and local tax withholding, Ohio Public Employees Retirement System contributions, and court mandated deductions. Voluntary payroll deductions include healthcare, medical, dental, vision, insurance, life insurance, flexible spending accounts, agency fees, union dues, and deferred compensation. Deductions for lost, stolen, or damaged equipment property, and unauthorized P-card purchases. GCRTA must gain prior authorization consent from employees to make voluntary deductions. Partial day deductions for salaried employees. GCRTA may deduct wages from a salaried employee's salary for partial day absences if all of the following circumstances are met. The employee is absent for personal or sick reasons, and the employee did not use vacation, personal sick, or FMLA leave to cover the absence, and one or more of the following apply. The employee did not seek permission for the partial day absence, the employee did seek permission for the partial day absence, and the permission was denied, or the employee's paid leave was exhausted. Policies 400.04 payroll deductions. The deductions listed in the revised policy are not an exhaustive list. Human Resources, Finance, and Legal review permissible payroll deductions on a continuous basis. And GCRTA reserves the right to make other mandatory or voluntary payroll deductions as permitted by federal, state, and local law. In summary of the revisions, added overpayment of previous wages to mandatory deductions, added additional voluntary deduction types as needed for our current operations, added language that the GCRTA must gain prior authorization consent from employees' voluntary deductions, which on note is we currently practice this. This is just an update to the language of the policy, and added partial day deduction exception for salary employees. Recommendation, staff requests that the Committee of the Whole recommend the revisions to the Personnel Policy 400.04 payroll deductions to the full Board of Trustees for approval. Any questions?
Thank you for the presentations. Any comments from the board? Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That concludes the Committee of the Whole for today. I'm going to make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second, Welch.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Yep, give me a second so I can get to it. Call to order a meeting of the Audit, Safety, Compliance, and Real Estate Committee. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Okay, Mayor David Weiss, Chair.
Present?
Ms. Lauren Welch.
Present.
Ms. Anastasia Elder.
Here.
Ms. Emily Pacetti. Mr. Jeffrey Sleesman.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Great, thank you. First item is approval of the minutes of July 1st, 2025. Are there any comments or corrections? Not. I'll move to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Sleesman. Clerk, please call the roll. I guess we don't need a roll call, I guess, technically. Well, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Approval passes. Next item is an update on the casualty insurance program, with presenters being Ms. Finnegan and Ms. Goodwin, I believe. Please, floor is yours.
Good morning, Mayor Kumar, committee members, and members of the board. My name is Lynn Finnegan, and I am a risk analyst. And thank you. Presenting along with me is Barbara Goodwin, representing USI Insurance Services, our casualty broker. And also with us today is Mr. Darwin Rutledge, owner of Rutledge Group, DBE. Okay. GCRTA maintains a casualty insurance program for protection of assets against catastrophic loss. And the facets of this program are excess liability, general, rail, auto, $95 million limits, $5 million self-insured retention, SIR, excess workers' compensation, $10 million limit, $750,000 SIR, public officials liability / employment practices liability, a $5 million limit with respective limits of $250,000 and $500,000 for the SIRs. And just a quick note that we are experiencing no increase in retentions or reduction in coverage terms for 2025. And this insurance is procured by GCRTA conducting an RFP process to select and retain a casualty insurance broker. USI is GCRTA's casualty insurance broker. Excess liability markets are accessed via its broker. There are no direct writers of these coverages. Together, GCRTA and USI approach insurance markets with a submission describing GCRTA's operations and exposures, loss experience, and safety culture to negotiate the best partnerships with markets and best program for GCRTA in terms of coverage and pricing. Public officials' employment practices liability renewal. This coverage provides liability protection to board members, directors, officers, as well as GCRTA for alleged wrongful acts by directors, officers, committee members, or employees. The policy also provides coverage for employment practice claims. Excess workers' compensation renewal provides catastrophic insurance coverage in excess of a $750,000 self-insured retention per occurrence.
Good morning. So the excess liability market, market outlook. So the excess coverage is still remaining challenging. Casualty coverages are challenging as a result of large jury verdicts. You probably heard of the term nuclear verdicts. It's still unfortunately impacting the market. Markets are still not getting enough premium for the high excess layers. So you'll see pricing where the lead layer might, be a certain percentage, and the higher layers will be higher. Also, a few markets are exiting or reducing capacity. Some of the larger markets are cutting back from limits of $25 million to $10 million in limits. The bus markets, rail and bus, are still focused on reviewing aggregation. The most recent example was the Norfolk Southern derailment loss in East Palestine. A lot of these insurance carriers are not only impacted by the rail liability loss, but also the pollution and also rail car leasing companies. Should also mention bus liability is still challenging, and that losses in the last 10 years have increased 100% in terms of loss costs. So that's some of the nuclear verdicts that you've heard of. So the good news is that GCRTA has historically been viewed as a preferred account by underwriters. That has a lot to do with your safety culture here and attention to risk control and risk management. GCRTA is better placed in this extremely challenging market given how we've structured this in a quota share basis. You actually have 16 different insurance carriers participating on this program, currently balanced between multiple U.S., London, and Bermuda insurance carriers. So if we were to lose one market in that tower, it's easy to replace one, and we actually had to do that this year. So in terms of the premiums, it is the largest program for GCRTA. The expiring premium is $1,877,664. Renewal premium is $2,029,733, which is an 8% increase. That's a very favorable result. In this challenging market, we met about 5 weeks ago, and we were expecting an increase of between 10 and 20%. GCRTA budgeted 15%. But we were able to achieve the 8%. So that was actually a significant win. As I mentioned, this is structured in a quota share, with the domestic London and Bermuda markets. And as I mentioned, so every market is taking a small percentage of each layer. So that actually, again, when we lose a participant in the program, we're easily able to replace them and keep the premiums competitive.
And regarding our excess workers' compensation policy renewal, due to marketing efforts, competition generated among markets, and we obtained a renewal premium slightly under expiring. Our existing carrier, Safety National, is offering a lower rate despite increased personnel costs of 6% from projected 2024 to projected 2025. Renewal premium quoted is $287,441 versus $287,527. We're seeing an $86 decrease. Better than expected result given recommended budget amount of $301,903, reflecting an increase estimate of 5%. And our public officials EPL renewal, our incumbent carrier, AIG National Union. Expiring premium is $104,000. We have received a renewal premium of $93,940, a 10% decrease. We budgeted for 5% increase in accordance with our broker's experience with other public entity accounts. The renewal premium does not require board approval. This update's being provided because this was a line of coverage that had previously required board approval in prior years. In summary, the combined result for all three insurance policies is a renewal premium of $2,411,114 versus expiring premiums of $2,269,191, an increase of 6% or $141,923. This is $159,303 under the budgeted amount of $2,570,417. Staff requests that the Audit, Safety, Compliance, and Real Estate Committee recommend to the Board of Trustees the purchase of casualty insurance from various insurance underwriters through USI Insurance Services, LLC, GCRTA's casualty insurance broker, in a total amount not to exceed $2,411,114 for a period of 12 months. Thank you. If there are any questions.
Great, thank you very much. Questions from committee? Just a couple of things for me. If you can maybe just go back one slide, if you would. The term, the 12 months, I always get confused as to when that's running. What 12 months are we talking
certainly.
about?
September 1st to September 1st. So this will be September 1st of 2025 to 2026.
Okay. And then maybe for Ms. Goodwin, the quota share, could you just walk me through just generally, is there 16 underwriters involved? Are they, at each layer, are the insurance companies equal participants of each layer, or are they, that's adjusted?
No, so there's 3 layers in your program up to limits of $95 million. And so what happens is each carrier will take a small percentage of each of those layers. So we could have some carriers that will actually take maybe 5% or 10% of the first layer. They might come in again in the top layer. So that's how they manage their risk, because they have very small amounts of limit that they have that participate on that layer. And then so their premium is also that percentage, and then any claim costs that may occur would also be that same percentage. So what's really nice about that is that if they had, if one insurance carrier had the full 20 million, if that insurance carrier decided to non-renew, it would be very difficult to replace them. So by having this participation, a lot of different insurance carriers are participating. And again, like I said, in the middle layer, we lost Hiscox. They couldn't do concurrent layers, so we were able to replace it with a company called QBE. So.
Hats off. Nice job on these, based on what I know about rates these days. So nice job.
Right.
Any other questions from the committee?
I'll just echo that. Good job keeping this under budget, and in the one case actually decreasing altogether.
All right.
Appreciate it.
We thank you.
Just a quick comment. Just wanted to say, again, just to echo the thanks. We see Barbara who travels to be able to kind of work with our team. If it has not been said before, I know Janet is very proud of Lynn, as this is her first presentation formally before the board. And then also wanted to give a shout out to Dr. Kaver, who also does a lot of the work on the operational side to really explain to the underwriters and the insurance folks that what we do in operations is definitely paid attention to. So we appreciate his support in that. It's really a team effort. So thank you. And thank you, Janet, for your oversight of this.
If there's nothing else, then I'll make a motion to send this recommendation on to the full board. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. I think that takes care of our committee for today. So we stand adjourned. Thank you.
If I could just be able to punt it over to Raj, who's going to tee it up for Mayor Kumar. We have quite a bit of presentations. Some are here for presentation only, such as the ridership report, and others we actually need them to be moved. So we will move forward, and with future packets, we'll make a little demarcation on your booklets there to remind you which one needs to get a vote and which one is just for information. So Raj, if you could tee it up for Mayor Kumar.
Yep. Mayor Kumar, thank you, India. The 2 presentations within the committee of the whole, the rail car, the option on the up to 12 rail cars, as well as the policy, the 400.04, do need to be voted on to be moved to the full board.
So I'd like to, I'm going to open it back up. No problem. We're going to open up the committee of the whole very quickly. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Mayor Paul Kumar.
Present.
Ms. Welch.
Yes.
Ms. Elder.
Here.
Mayor Gallo.
Here.
Mr. Love.
Here.
Reverend Lucas. Ms. McPherson.
Here.
Ms. Pachetti. Mr. Sleesman.
Yep.
And Mayor Weiss.
Present.
I would like to make a motion, the option to purchase up to 12 rail cars that we heard the presentation on earlier in the meeting.
Mayor Kumar, may I interject once again? Anna, did you want to speak to this very, very quickly? Sorry for the interruption.
Sure.
I just want the board to understand that today's was a presentation, and we do intend to come forward with up to 12 rail cars, but that would not necessarily be in August.
So I'll piggyback on the clarification. So we are also in active, constant negotiation with our rail car manufacturer. We want to make sure that we don't lock in a particular month. So within the next couple months, we will come back to the board with final determination for that particular item. We didn't want to lock it into August. It could be September.
Thank you, India.
So We want to, again, make a motion to option to purchase up to 12 rail cars, as we heard, with Siemens Mobility. Is there a second?
Second.
Move that to the full board for a vote.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we'll have a second option on the personnel policies and procedures manual update to move that to the full board for consideration. I'll make a motion on that. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second, Love.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
At 11:05, I'm going to call to order the Organizational Services and Performance Monitoring Committee. Avis, may I have a roll call, please?
Emily Pachetti, Chair. Ms. Lauren Welch, Vice Chair.
Present.
Mayor Marie Gallo.
Here.
Ms. Deidre McPherson.
Here.
Mr. Jeffrey Sleesman.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you so much. We're now going to have the approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve, Sleesman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those meeting minutes have been approved. We'll now move on to the next agenda item. We have a multi-tenant hosting solution non-competitive. This is a negotiated sole source procurement from Televic to allow access to new rail car data utilizing a multi-tenant hosting solution. Today, we're going to have presenters Charles Morgan and Drew Dimmick. Thank you so much.
Good morning, Chair Welch, members of the committee, and members of the board. My name is Brian Moore, not Charles, but Charles is standing by if I need an assist here. And I'm here to talk about the multi-tenant hosting solution for Televic, which is a communication system that's going to be on the new rail cars. Siemens is using Televic for the passenger information system, and there are two components to the vehicle communication system. There's equipment that's installed on the vehicle, and that's provided by the Siemens contract. So as part of their contract, they'll install that equipment. The second part is the wayside data service. It's GCRTA's responsibility to offload that data and then manipulate it and use it to improve service. So the installed features on the vehicle, it's fully integrated, and it includes the automatic passenger information system, or the display screens where we can have variable messages played, public address system, which broadcasts inside the vehicle as well as outside, cab-to-cab intercom, so that provides the operators, if we have more than one, to communicate with each other. We have the passenger emergency intercom, so if there's an event on the train and somebody pulls that, the operators alerted, they know where the emergency is coming from. There's a front destination sign, there's side destination signs, there's an interior message sign, there's a block number sign, global positioning, and an extensive database that will offload data about the car and the passenger counts, things of that nature. And then there's also the video surveillance system that runs through Televic. So just looking at this is a plan view of the car. You can see the speakers, you can see some of the signs that are installed. It shows you the cameras, and all of those items are part of the car-borne Televic system. This is the human-machine interface. This is what will be seen on the dashboard for the operators. And from that screen, it will control live public announcements. So if there's something happening that the operator needs to inform passengers, they'll use the HMI for that. The cab-to-cab intercom, the passenger emergency intercom, again, it will highlight on the vehicle and show where the what intercom was triggered. There's automated announcements. So we can use GPS coordinates to, like, say, as you approach University Circle, if there's an event at Severance Hall, then we could use that to be triggered once it hits a GPS location. Route selection. So when the operator begins their day, they'll select the route, and that'll help populate the destination signs. Also, any pre-recorded messages, if we want to remind passengers to properly stow their strollers or allow other passengers to sit next to them, we can put those pre-recorded messages into the system, and then it also controls the CCTV. So this is a view inside the vehicle. You can see the image on the left, the sign that's at the top, that's that variable message sign. And then the images to the right are some of those things that we can program into the sign. So we can have major or important landmarks, customer information, as well as the stops, which one's next, and give the whole route. Then at the bottom, that's just a block number, mostly used by our operators, but it'll let people know which block is associated with that train. So then that was the car-borne equipment. Now, the Televic communication system also has that the Wayside Data Service, and that's the Televic web hosting services that we're coming to you with today. What that'll do is it provides the Wayside equipment. It provides this cybersecurity through Televic, automated LiveCom. That's the suite that's used, and it'll push updates of the software to the cars. High availability. The availability of software is 95+%. So they maintain a large uptime or reliability. Then it has automated backups and data recovery. So those are things that we won't have to manage here at RTA. There's an automated load balancing and system health monitoring. So depending on the traffic or the data traffic that's going on, the system will adjust itself so that it can get routed to the right place. Then there's vehicle data. Again, it'll give information about the propulsion system, the HVAC systems, things of that nature, passenger counting, and then also video downloads. And then there's a remote message distribution. So if there's something that we need to push out to the trains from, say, downtown, that can also be pushed out through this system or the Televic web-hosted solution. So some of the advantages: it eliminates the need to have primary and backup hardware on-prem. It improves software version control, so it's a more consistent rollout of those updates. It frees up departmental resources on troubleshooting if something doesn't work right, and it eliminates the need for specialized knowledge. One of the things that this system uses are Kubernetes, and I've looked at it and I still don't know what they are. But the system will also offload and store data for us. And with that, I'll turn it over to Drew Dimmick.
Good morning, Chair Welch, members of the committee, and members of the board. My name is Drew Dimmick, and I'm the contract administrator for this non-competitive procurement. Revised Code 306.43H2 states that this procurement is exempt from competitive solicitation due to the fact that Siemens uses Televic exclusively as its provider of onboard passenger information systems. Therefore, Televic is the only firm who can provide GCRTA with the software required for the hardware on Siemens-built railcars. Procurement requested a proposal on April 18th, 2025, and a proposal was received May 7th, 2025. A 0% DB Eagle was assigned to this project, and the proposal was reviewed by representatives from the information technology, fleet management, and procurement departments. Founded in 1946 as a Belgian manufacturer of professional radio systems, Televic is now an international leader in high-end communication systems across many different markets, with 40+ years experience in the rail industry and over 65,000 vehicles worldwide using their onboard technology. Some of their other clients are San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency, Calgary Transit, GVB Amsterdam, CAF Metro Delhi, Montreal Metro, among many others. Staff requests that the Organizational Services and Performance Monitoring Committee recommend to the Board of Trustees the award to Televic to provide a multi-tenant hosting solution and a negotiated contract amount not to exceed $1,053,723 for a period of 4 years and 1 month. Happy to take any questions.
I want to thank you for that presentation. I think A lot of people don't understand that getting these buses on the road and our rail on the tracks is more than just getting the equipment and then just getting it here. And I know that the team has put a lot of work into going to look at the structure, the infrastructure, and this is a part of it. It improves our safety and our customer experience. So thank you for this. Do I have any questions from the committee members or committee of the whole?
One question maybe for Brian. It may not be directly related to the action we're asking for today, but one of the most valuable, I think, things about the new rail cars are being able to go from all the way from east to west, back and forth without changing the car. The height that changes, is that part of? Do the operators actually change that when the new trains will come into Tower City? Do they actually push something that adjusts it, or how, do you know?
Really?
I'm not being very articulate on what I'm.
I think I understand it. I'll give it a shot. What it is that as far as the train will load level, but that's based on the how many people are inside the vehicle. But when it comes down to it, the front doors will service the low platforms. And could you restate that? I
see. So there's no real actual adjustment of the car itself.
So if I can clarify, if the question is the operator actually has to step up into the cab, is there an actual physical height differentiation?
Whether they adjust the height of the cab.
They do not adjust the height.
No.
The vehicle, the front doors, the two front doors will be set to service the current low platform stops, and the middle doors will be set to allow us to stop at all of the current red line stops. The red line stops are 3 feet above the rail. And so that car will be able to do it. When Brian is talking about load leveling, it's say if you have a crush load, the weight of the train would drop slightly. And so this load leveling will ensure that if we have a Browns game, the train doesn't go below the level of the station that it's servicing.
So switching from the two types of track doesn't impact?
It doesn't.
Okay, thank you.
And if I could add real quick, my thought came back. There is a switch that controls the doors, so the operator will have to use that switch to identify whether they're in the low platform or the high platform, but that's all done from that console.
I have a follow-up question to that. So just logistically, just in my brain, I have a picture of what's happening. Considering that the front door and the back door would be used for the lower platforms, and the operator would obviously control whether those doors open or close, depending on which platform or location you're at. Are there stairs inside, or I guess?
Yes, at the ends of the car, there are. Yeah, it's in the other one. That's a long ways back. But at the ends of the car, you'll see the stairs. So there are stairs, and then there's a trap door that'll come down and cover those stairs when they're at high platform onlys.
Understood. And then for ADA access on those lower ones?
They'll always be able to access. The middle doors are always fixed at the higher elevation, and all of our mini highs on light rail will be set to the height of those doors. So the ADA accessibility will be through those center doors.
Got it. Okay. That clarifies it. Thank you.
One question. This is for our new rail cars, correct? All 60 of them?
Yes.
Okay. And we're in the process of purchasing and building, all 60. This contract is for 4 years and 1 month, I believe.
Yes.
When does that start? Because these cars aren't going to be in service. Could you describe the timing of that?
So the proposal took us through the end of 2029. So the plan was to start January 1st, 26. But Televic, in order to maintain the same schedule we have with our delivery, they need to start December 1st, 2025 to have a pre-production environment up and running for when we are commissioning the first rail cars.
Okay, so you're just getting a contract in line so that the cars can be outfitted, but it still runs through 29.
Yes, yeah, December 31st, 2029.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? All right. Do I have a motion to move forward?
So moved, Sleesman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That will carry to the full board. Thank you so much for that presentation. Next up, we have a change order, a presentation of negotiated change orders to the 3 contracted paratransit service contracts with presenters Nick Davidson and Sharon Contrell-Prefer. You now have the floor. Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Welch, members of the committee, members of the board. I'm Nick Davidson, District Director for Paratransit. This morning, we're coming to you for a change order for our purchase transportation. And just a few highlights of that contract. And this contract the base contract from 23 to 26, mandated active audio and video recording inside the vehicles at all times. It increased the minimum accessibility percentages requirements for our contractors. So the number of vehicles that are accessible is increased in driving. Eventually, it'll be at 100%. It aligned liquidated damages with customer expectations so that we can really drive the customer experience and improve that as we move forward. This balances the people strategy with business metrics. So if you remember at the beginning of this contract, which started June 1st of 23, RTA and its contractors were having challenges getting operators hired. What this did was really drove a strategy to compel the contractors to increase wages for the frontline employees so that we could ensure that we could attract and retain talent and we can continue serving our customers. It increased the liability requirements for our third-party vendors, and then that moved the liability limit from $5 million to $10 million. It standardized our fuel market escalator, de-escalator. It standardized our billing methods for all the vendors. And then because of the increased ridership, at this point, 25 months into the contract, we've utilized nearly 89% of the contract. RTA is required to provide all paratransit trips that are requested. We're not permitted to have capacity constraints. This is an unfunded federal mandate. To elaborate further, by federal law, 49 CFR Code of Federal Regulations, Section 37-121, entities that are providing fixed route system are required to provide a comparable service for persons with disabilities. That comparable service is defined as meeting same hours and days of service, the service area, response time, fares. We're not allowed to prioritize based on trip purpose. And then the most compelling one at this point is the absence of capacity restraints. Capacity constraints. So in other words, if a passenger requests a trip within that ADA area, we are not permitted to turn that trip down. A little bit of history on why we're going to this increase. When we had researched, if you look in that blue area, that was about a 12-month period where ridership was relatively flat, about 95% of pre-COVID levels. At that time, based on our return to work status of where we were at that time, the fixed route had also flatlined for a period there. We believed that we had fully recovered from, and we would never fully get to the 100%. We thought that return to work and work from home was permanent. Since we went to board action, and you can see that last month was when we went to the board, the very next month we started to experience what you see in the green shaded area there, where we went above pre-COVID levels and have never returned back down. So we've continued to grow since then. And those levels are anywhere from as much as 128% above pre-COVID levels. All of our contractors have been able to increase the number of runs provided. And I say runs, I mean operator shifts. And you can see that in chart form here. So you can see that one of the strategies, that people strategy to really drive hiring for our frontline employees, from March of 22 to 23, you can see there's not a lot of variance. We were really attempting to grow until we instituted those higher rates with this current contract to really drive employee attraction and retention. Then you saw a significant change in the amount of service we were able to offer. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sharon.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Welch, Ms. Birdsong Terry, members of the committee, members of the board. My name is Sharon Cottrell-Peffer. I'm a procurement team manager. In the procurement department, I'm going to deliver the procurement overview. In 2023, the original contracts were authorized for a period of 3 years with 2 one-year options for renewal under the following resolutions. 2023-8 with Future Age Incorporated, doing business as Provide a Ride, for a base term not to exceed $17,044,485.35. Reso 2023-9 with GC Logistics of Mississippi, LLC, for a base term not to exceed $11,106,075.91. And Resolution 2023-10 with Senior Transportation Connection for a base term not to exceed $400,370.89. All notices to proceed were issued and effective on June 1st, 2023. Each contract has a $500,000 worth of GM change order signing authority, and we've had 0 change orders to date. Provide a Ride, we're asking for an increase of $6,772,206.71, which would bring the new base contract, base being 3 years, to $23,816,692.06. The GC Logistics contract, we're looking for an increase of $4,397,910.56, bringing the new base term contract to $15,503,986.47. And lastly, STC, Senior Transportation Connection, looking for a $1,060,425.48 increase for a new base contract total of $6,460,796.37. Again, the base term is 36 months, 3 years, and the base term will expire May 31st of next year. DBE goal was 14%, signed all 3 contracts, and all vendors are committed to maintaining that percentage. Paratransit and procurement departments followed the change order process. All changes have been reviewed by the change order committee and approved, and amounts requested are consistent with other expenditures related to paratransit service. Recommendation. Staff requests that the Organizational Services and Performance Monitoring Committee recommend approval of these proposed change orders and reinstate the general manager's change order signing authority to $500,000 for each contract. Contract number 2022-082A with Future Age Incorporated, doing business as Provide a Ride, in an amount not to exceed $6,772,206.71 for a new base contract amount not to exceed $23,816,692.06. Contract number 2022-082B with GC Logistics of Mississippi, LLC, in an amount not to exceed $4,397,910.56 for a new base contract amount not to exceed $15,503,986.47. And finally, contract number 2022-082C with Senior Transportation Connection in an amount not to exceed $1,060,425.48 for a new base contract amount not to exceed $6,460,796.37. And we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have this time.
Thank you for that presentation. It's always great to see paratransit ridership increasing and us making accommodations to ensure that there's frequency in those riders by providing more rides. Are there any questions Trustee Elder?
Yeah, just for additional clarification, I know you're presenting these change orders so that, these services can provide the level of service and frequency that needs to be provided for our increase in riders. Specifically, is the change order to allow for them to have more people on the ground, having more vehicles? Like, what are the specifics of
Pretty
that
much
these
to
change
keep up
orders
with
would be
demand,
providing?
because we can't refuse a trip. It's to keep up with demand and make sure that we can afford to keep providing the same level of service that we've been.
Okay.
We have about 3 months left of expenditures left of board authorizing the contract.
Got it. And this contract is up, or these May
31st of 2026, ma'am.
Okay.
The base contract will expire.
Right. Okay.
So can I add, just so you all know, we are looking to see if we can get better pricing. So rather than come to you with option year request for increase for option years, we're planning to go out for a new solicitation this fall to see what kind of competition we can get and see if we can get better pricing. And then we'll be able to decide if we're going to go forward with new contracts or exercise the options on the existing contracts.
Understood. Great to hear. Thank you.
Any additional questions?
Thank you for the presentation. And just for clarification or confirmation, long-term strategy is still GCRTA, increase in operator GCRTA operators.
Correct. We currently have about 80 vehicles in service. By the end of this year, we'll be up to 85, and then 93 the following year, and then 100 vehicles the year after. So we are escalating our capacity internally. Yes, sir.
I won't keep us long. Sound like Reverend
Call,
Lucas.
Doc. Good call.
Sound like Reverend Lucas here. Won't keep you long. But Ms. Welsh, members of the board, Mr. Love. So as we look at expanding our in-house, and certainly we want to do so by 20 vehicles. We've always historically had an 80 vehicle max. This allows us to do several things. Certainly in that 2023 time, we were at a point where the vendors could not grow. And so we need to be able to have flexibility and have some of our own control as we look at these times where we get to demand and supply not matching. And so, yes, we are in a process. We have a bus improvement plan that will trickle in buses so that we can grow, but we do want to become, we would become the size of what STC is right now.
Thank you. Any additional questions, comments? I will make a motion to recommend these changes to the full board. Do I have a second?
Second, McPherson.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This will carry to the full board. Thank you so much for your time and that presentation. I motion to adjourn this meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This committee meeting is adjourned.
To call to order this meeting of the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee at 11:33. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Jeffrey Sleesman, Chair.
Here.
Ms. Lauren Welch.
Present.
Mayor Marie Gallo.
Here.
Mr. Stephen Love.
Here.
Reverend Charles Lucas. And you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Our first item is the approval of the minutes from July 1st, 2025. Are there any questions, concerns, or alterations from the board? If not, I'll move to approve. Do I have a second?
Second, Love.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those minutes stand approved. We have one item today. It's an RFP procurement, and we'll have a presentation of a competitive negotiated procurement for architect and engineer services to supplement internal engineering staff for 24 months. And we'll get the presentation from Kathleen McGurvey and Jonathan Lawley. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Sleesman, members of the committee, members of the board. Good morning, almost good afternoon here. So again, I'm Kathleen McGurvey from the Engineering Department, here with Jonathan Lawley from Procurement to present on the on-call architect and engineering services for 2025. And the purpose of this contract is to supplement RTA staff in the preparation of plans and specifications, as well as cost estimates, construction support, and other related services. The work will be by task order assignment, and the total task orders will not exceed $400,000 over 24 months. Here's some examples of the types of task orders that may be issued. Central bus maintenance facility egress stair, retaining wall design for West 38th Street pedestrian bridge, Central Rail repave phase 2, various HVAC unit replacements, and West Park Training Center re-roofing project. And now I'll turn it over to Jonathan.
Good morning, Chairman Sleesman, members of the committee, members of the board. Jonathan Lawley, Program Contract Manager for this project. The request for proposal was issued on March 31st, 2025. 30 interested parties reviewed the solicitation. 3 submitted a proposal. 3 were also interviewed. The evaluation panel members for this project came from the following departments: Engineering and Project Development, Safety, Office of Business Development, and Procurement. This project was procured under the Brooks Act, and using the following criteria, we looked at the project manager, the assigned staff, past performance, project approach, location of pejorative work, and DBE participation. The most technically qualified firm for this project, as determined by the selection panel, was DLZ Ohio Incorporated. They'll be using Advanced Engineering Consultants Limited to meet the 11% DBE goal assigned to this project. DLZ Ohio Incorporated has successfully completed projects for GCRTA, Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, ODOT, Central Ohio Transit Authority, and Capital Area Transportation Authority, among others. DLZ Ohio Incorporated is a multidisciplinary firm with extensive industry knowledge and has a history of providing good quality deliverables. Staff is requesting the committee recommend award to DLZ Ohio Incorporated for this project in a contract amount not to exceed $400,000 for a period not to exceed 24 months. Questions?
Do I have any questions from the board or the committee as a whole? All right, if not, thanks for the presentation. I guess this will be a short one. I will, in that case, I'll move to advance this to the whole board for approval. Do I have a second?
Second, Welch.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes, and we will pass that on to the full board. And with that, that's everything we have for this committee today, and I will move to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second, Love.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? This meeting stands adjourned at 11:37.